I browse Reddit, and whenever people come with questions on how to deal with bad landlords, I help them out. So once the family left, the landlord just ghosted them.
Oh my gosh, that's insane.
They have no clue how to get the money back.
Oh my god.
Because the landlord is a bully and I don't like bullies. The bad actors are the ones who get away with it very easily. If one landlord did it to you, he's did it to everyone before you. I had one quite industrious guy who is so fed up with his landlord that he went to reach out to like 6 to 8 other people from the same place, and they all messed with him in the small claims court.
That's something like I would do, like I'm very vindictive as a person.
Yes, but you'll be very justified.
What's up everyone, to another Rentlys Stories. Today we are back in the Rentlys office because we don't have budget for any other site. So maybe you guys want to sponsor us, that'd be great. I'm with Xuan Ming. Maybe you can introduce yourself to everyone else out there.
Hi everyone, my name is Xuan Ming. I'm a legal counsel at the family office. So on the side, what I do is I browse Reddit, and whenever people come on Reddit with questions on how to deal with bad landlords, I help them out through DMs or through post.
Alright, really cool. So I think the first question I guess I really want to find out is that of all the platforms you use, how come Reddit? Is that the place you see that most people actually?
It's the easiest to browse, and that's where Singaporeans or other people complain about the most. On say Ask Singapore or r/Singapore, that's where they come to ask questions. Yeah. How do I deal with this and that?
How about hardware zone?
Nah, hardware zone is old age time. Reddit is simple and easy to use on the app, so when I'm going to work or coming back from work, I just scroll through and I just see people with legal queries. They ask how do I deal with this, how do I do that, and I just answer.
I noticed that other countries, usually there's a, if a new tenant comes in, they usually need to have some kind of like reference, maybe from their past landlord or something like that. Do you have maybe an idea why Singapore doesn't do this or doesn't want to do this or just didn't think about it?
I think it's because in general, right, the bad actors are the ones who get away with it very easily. So you have bad tenants and bad landlords, but most of the time bad tenants, the landlords can control in a sense because they have the deposit. Yeah. But for bad landlords, the tenants don't have much recourse in the first place. So the biggest group that is vulnerable are the foreign tenants who leave on the very day, or usually they leave on the last day of their lease. But then the landlord is supposed to have 7 days after they leave to return them the deposit. But once the tenant is gone, they fly overseas. How are they going to chase the landlord? They don't know how. So there are many landlords who prey on such vulnerable tenants who know that once they leave, right, according to a contract, the default is 7 days after you leave your place, then the landlord must return you your deposit. But all the foreign tenants, by far and the most default position is that they only leave Singapore on the last day of their lease. If not, they have to fork out quite a large sum to stay in a hotel for a couple of days. And we know that's very expensive in Singapore as well. Right. So once they leave, the landlords will just ghost them, and these tenants, they have no clue how to get the money back. So I have seen tenants with a large range of deposits. The smallest was say 1,000, the biggest was 15K.
$15,000?
15,000 for, yes, because this was 2 months deposit for quite a fancy place.
Wow.
Yeah.
Where's the, oh my gosh, that's insane, $15,000. And the landlord just ate the whole thing.
Landlord ate the whole thing because they knew that once this family, it's a 4-bedroom condo, so the rental was about 7.5K. Right. So 2 months rental is around 15K. So once the family left, the landlord just ghosted them, assuming that they will never come back to chase for it. Yeah.
Can expats or I guess tenants in general, can they do anything if this were to happen to them? Let's just say if they really have no choice, they already have the plane ticket booked and everything, they leave the country, can they still do anything about this?
Yes, so what they can do is raise a claims in the small claims tribunal.
Or this can be done like if they're in Indonesia or something.
So you can do it from overseas. Right. So there is a process through the small claims court that you can apply for an account, and then you have to do verification, do checks, and then you need someone in Singapore to help you to send a registered letter out, stating that someone is raising a claim against the landlord. Yeah. So the whole process is not very expensive at all. It's actually less than $50.
That's so worth for 50K.
Definitely,
15K, right?
Yes, definitely worth. But small claim tribunal also has a cap as well, also how much you can claim. The usual cap is I think 10,000. So the larger claims, unfortunately, you have to go through a lawyer through the main courts. Right. But most tenant deposits that they are fighting over is definitely underneath the limit. So a small claims tribunal summons is usually more than enough to get some landlords going. Okay. So in the around 8 people that I've helped so far, 6 of them, once the landlords receive this letter that, hey, we're going to take you to court if you do not pay the deposit, then they will be scared and they cough up the money.
Right. Man, that's so cool that you helped out like 8 people to get back their deposits. I think not a lot of, I would say, support is there, or at least it's not very visible. But actually, why do you think that a lot of the, I don't know, the expats or even locals, they don't actually voice out? You know, I think they know that it's very unfair, and I'm quite sure they probably can ask people around them like, what's this, you know, like how can I go about this? But why do you think they don't actually do anything about it?
Well, they do. They complain on Reddit, and people like me are the ones that step up to try and help them out. But the reality is that the legal system is something that most people try not to get involved in, nor do they have the knowledge about it.
I think politics as well, you know.
And the reality also is that our legal system is geared towards locals. So, for example, right, to log into the court's website, right, the default is SingPass. As a foreigner, you have to create this other's account as a foreigner, get verified, everything else. And so because you don't even know how to log in the first place, it's not that easy, it's quite daunting for the foreigners. And to be honest, our court system is much better than other countries in terms of efficiency. For example, if you say you come from Italy or Spain, the courts are famous to take, let's say, 3 years to like handle anything. So you will take your assumption of how the court system works, bring it to Singapore and assume that it's not worth the effort anymore. But courts are different here. We are a much more efficient society, and we stand for justice in terms of all these kind of bad habits from the landlords. So some people think that it's not worth it, but actually it is worth a try. They just don't know how simple the process actually can be and how long it actually takes.
Yeah, I think that really makes sense. At least just off the top of my head, I'm thinking if I was in a tenant's position and this happened to me, I'm thinking maybe if I'm renting like the deposit's like $8,000, then I would think, okay, then if I go to small claims, then I'm just worried about the fees, you know, then maybe I will end up losing money. I think at least that's what, like, you know, you watch TV, they will say, man, the lawyer's killing me, man, like I lose money in the end. So I think that's for me like the reason why I wouldn't want to go as a tenant. I'm like, later I end up like losing money, and it takes very long. There's a whole process just for 8K. I'm just like, the 8K, I'm just dropping it.
Small claims, right? What most people don't know is that in small claims, you can't be represented by a lawyer. So it's you versus the landlord directly.
Oh, really?
No lawyers involved. So it really cuts down on the cost. No lawyers are involved at all. Plus, you can do it through Zoom.
Serious?
I'm serious. So people don't have to fly to Singapore to try and fight for their deposit. You can do it 100% through Zoom. So this was a recent thing because of COVID. Courts all went full Zoom, and it has continued on till today. Tenants from overseas can fight their case through Zoom.
Oh, okay. So, you know, I know in court, usually it's like if you don't turn up, then you lose the case immediately, right? For a small case.
No, you may get a judgment in default, yes, if you don't show up.
Okay. Then, so now I just turn on Zoom and I'm good to go.
You are good to go, yes. So they'll give you a timing, tell you to log in through Zoom, and you can fight your case through Zoom. You don't have to fly down to Singapore at all. So the average rental deposit in Singapore for a smaller place is say 3,000, 4,000 thereabouts, depending on how you negotiate. So most people are like, my flight ticket back is 1,000, and I have to stay in Singapore for like 2 weeks for the court hearings. I spend another 2,000 in rental costs, it's not worth it. But the reality is that technology has advanced. Our court systems are efficient. Zoom is a thing. So you can just do it from the comfort of wherever you are in your home country. But most people don't know that. So there's a lot. There are a lot of assumptions out there about the legal system which are not true anymore. But most people don't know that. And the assumptions will be true, say, 10, 15 years ago. But yeah, things have changed. And I hope that people can be educated. But one issue that we have faced so far is enforcement. So the reality is that small claims court only gives a judgment. But if the landlord still doesn't want to pay, you have to move into this thing what we call enforcement. And enforcement is where, so if you see, for example, like, due to no payment, we slap a notice on your shop saying it's going to be seized for repayment of debt and other things. Yeah, so you need an actual lawyer for that, and the legal fees involved are a little higher, say at like 4,000, 3,000 thereabouts.
So they just get like allowance to come down?
No, that's not legal.
That's the whole point of that piece of paper.
No, like you need to get lawyers involved to come and slap the notice, seize property and everything, get sheriffs involved. So for anything less than 3,000, 4,000, it's very possible that the landlord will just ignore you, and your legal fees to get enforcement is not worth that sum of money already.
Right. So likely maybe something like to really follow through all the way, 5K. 5K
at the very least, or what I'm trying to do now with another group of people is that they are slowly collecting more and more details. If a landlord did it to you, it's done it to every other tenant in the past. So what you can do is pull it all together and enforce as a group. then your legal fees, because the act of enforcement is the same for be it 1 bill
Is that
or
what,
10
class
bills.
action?
In a sense, yes.
Oh, I know I watch Suits, so I know that.
In a sense, yes. It's virtually guaranteed that if one landlord did it to you, he's did it to everyone before you.
Right.
And everyone after you as well too.
Ah.
Yeah.
How do you go to reach out to these kind of people? I guess Reddit.
Reddit is one way, as there's various posts on the expat forums and everything else.
Right.
So yeah, I've had one quite industrious guy who is so fed up with his landlord that he went to reach out to like 6 to 8 other people from the same place,
Yeah.
and they all mass sued him in the small claims court.
Well, that's something like I would do, like I'm very vindictive as a person.
Yes, but you'll be very justified.
Yeah, just to bring the guy down.
Yep.
It's kind of like a relationship, right? Like tenants and landlords. You kind of date for 2 years.
In Singapore, we don't really have references, and you can't really give Google reviews on specific places that easily.
Yeah, that should be a thing, right? Like just like how you can you can just review your driver. You should be able to review a landlord, man.
You definitely should.
Yeah.
But it's not a thing in Singapore, and people try to just brush it off and just lower the prices, just get someone. Yeah, happens everywhere.
Yeah. This is a very worthwhile fight, but is it like something that you feel like, I don't know, what makes you feel like you want to do this? Is it like a sense of fulfillment, or like helping people, like a lawyer thing?
No, it's more of like landlords are bullies. Because to be honest, our laws in Singapore are very landlord-centric most of the time.
Yeah.
And the real estate agents, no offense to you, I have seen a lot of very bad contracts that are geared towards the benefit of the tenant or the landlord or the real estate agent most of the time. So there are a lot of bad actors in the system due to a lack of policing and a lack of knowledge, and people just use like FOMO to like faster pressure others to like quickly get into this, sign everything, if not you will lose and everything else. So there isn't a good space or time for people to really sit down and think. They are pressured. So yeah, there needs to be an improvement overall, but there's no real impetus for anyone to do so, because the whole system is based off 3 parties. You have the landlord, the tenant, and the real estate agent. And it's in everyone's interest to rush it along as much as possible to take advantage of each other. The landlord will pressure the tenants to faster sign. The real estate agents will pressure both of them to faster sign so they can close the deal and get their commission. And once everything is done, it's quite common that the real estate agent who helped you close the deal, he is gone, he doesn't help you anymore. I mean, so either he changed job or he ghosts you. And when there are issues between the landlord and the tenant, whoever has the more power is the one who is in control and can make use of the other. So in times when there's a lack of space, for example, when during the COVID crunch, post-COVID crunch, landlords have all the power, jack up prices, write a lot of bad contracts, but tenants have no choice but to quickly sign. If not, next week the prices will go up by another $100 again. Or vice versa, when there's not enough tenants, then the tenants can pressurize the landlord into signing a lot of whatever they want. So in this kind of very varied environment, it's hard for people to sit down and say, hey, let's do this right, because the cost of it is they might lose the tenant or lose the place that they want to rent.
Yeah. I mean, I feel that end of the day, the rental market is super free market, at least in Singapore.
It is.
Like in other countries, there's a bit more government intervention in it. Maybe they enforce certain things like escrow for the deposits even.
Yes.
So, what do you think about why do you think Singapore doesn't do that? Doesn't get involved?
Because the amount of problems so far raised is not enough for the government to move. People just take it as, I got suckered, I should have known better, but that's it. They take it as the price of doing business poorly. Which is also true. If you do business poorly, it's your own fault.
That's true, yeah. And I guess the rental market is not super big, right? So there's not a lot of
It is quite large, but the government has decided by and large, right, it's just leave it be. And I do hope there can be more education for people, especially first timers coming into Singapore. They aren't sure. Agents tell them this, and then they pay either overpriced stuff, or they didn't realize that their contracts have this and that written inside, which is bad. Yeah, there's a lot of things.
I personally feel like they should get involved a bit more, because if there's a top-down enforcement, I think firms can try their best or individuals can try, but it's going to be very hard to kind of shift the whole market unless there's a big daddy comes in and waves his stick. Yeah,
or unless rentally can become the de facto guideline for everyone. Show and educate people I do hope one day that people, when they come to Singapore to work, they can, because when you move countries to work, it's actually, there's a lot of things that are ongoing. People are stressed out with the move, getting into a new place, trying to find a new place to live, and there's so many things happening in the first 1 month. So how tight and stringent your tenancy contract is actually, right? Most people just carry, I found a place, I like it, let's just sign. I just quickly browse through it and just go. But if you have, say, Rently to help you to a third-party agent who is more geared towards making sure that everyone else is balanced and everything is fair, that would be fantastic.
Yeah, that's amazing. Okay, cool. All right, that's the first section done. We'll go on to the next section. So next section will be rental stories and legal perspective.
Actually, sorry, can I have one more question? But you can reply to him now.
So,
My question is like, you know, what makes you do what you do? Like,
yeah,
you could very well.
what makes you fight the good fight? Yeah.
You know, you could very well like what made you want to like get up one day and like, hey, you know, these landlords are, I'm gonna do something about it. What was the spark?
I mean, the spark was just someone really wrote a complaint on Reddit. I was like, okay, I need to help this guy because the landlord is a bully and I don't like bullies. So I spent the whole morning to just like call up small claims tribunal to figure out what the process is. I spent around 3 hours discussing with them and trying to get the right answers, because they love to say something like, oh, you need to talk to a lawyer, you need to talk to a lawyer. But I have to fight through that and I have to find the right magic words. The magic words were, tell me what is the process for a foreigner to do so. Because they keep on saying that, because they're very careful with this, they're not allowed to give any legal advice. So when I ask them, what can I do in this situation? They're like, speak to a lawyer, we cannot give you advice. So I had to change the text slightly. After talking to a few people, I found one lady who would speak to me after I told her what is the process. Then she managed to run through with me what is the process for a foreigner to, how to sign up, how to do this and that. And I ran through everything in a very systematic manner, and then I posted it all on Reddit and replied to the guy.
What happened to the guy?
Unfortunately, he couldn't get back his deposit because the landlord has decided to ghost him completely, ignored the judgment. He is now trying to raise enough people together to pay the price of enforcement. Yeah, that one is not, we don't always succeed, unfortunately. There are some we have succeeded in, but some that we have not.
I see.
Yeah, that's a sad reality.
So it comes down when you mentioned enforcement.
Yes.
Then you know, what's the hit rate? Like what's the percentage?
So far, out of 8 people I helped, 6 managed to get back the deposits. 2 of them, the landlord decided to just ignore everything still.
It's pretty high.
So in a way, I mean like the way for like the landlord to sort of evade this is just to ignore it. Is that
That is what they're doing for some of them, but the reality is that it will snowball and snowball sooner or later. As we find more tenants, it can snowball. Or if there is, say, a third-party platform like Rently that can afford to just have someone on retainer to help out on a long-going basis, or you have in-house counsel who is willing to help, you can do that too. So it's just about getting enough volume and mass in order to make the actions worthwhile. And I hope that one day, someone can step up to help out all of these tenants who have problems. So the the time bar claim is 6 years. You must take action within 6 years. If not, you can't do anything about it anymore. So 6 years worth of backlog, for example, if you can find everyone, then that is really a large sum to be recovered, and it's worthwhile to find a lawyer to do it. Or hopefully one day we can find lawyers who can do it pro bono for free. But for a good cause.
Yeah. For a good cause. Cool. Thanks so much. Yeah. Okay.
So I guess, I mean, we probably get into it a bit, but you know, the next section I guess is to find out a bit, like, what do you see is the most common unfair practices you've encountered, maybe on Reddit or like, I don't know, in real life, where you see tenants face or even landlords, I don't know.
So there are 2 main unfair practices that I see the most. First and foremost is landlords who take away the tenants' deposit unrightfully. So the tenants come, when they leave, landlord just go poof, just ghost them forever. Yeah. And you lose your 1 month's deposit, which is a few $1,000s, and that's a big sum.
Yes. Yeah.
That's the most common thing. The second most common one is weird stuff in the contract that you get screwed over by. So it can be anyone screwing over the other person. So more recently, one is a real estate agent. So the whole process of finding a tenant for you, a tenant, let's say the real estate agent helps you find a tenant. The tenant comes by, gives a check to show interest. So what happens if a tenant decides to go for another unit instead, even after having given you a check to show interest? Landlord can keep the check. Unfortunately, in quite a few real estate contracts that I've seen, the real estate agent keeps 85% or 90% of the check. And I'm like, why? On what basis? There is absolutely no basis for it. Then the landlord is like, okay, great, this guy, like I held the unit for 1 month for this guy. He said he wants it. He puts down 1 month's check as a deposit. But in the end, like maybe something went wrong with his job, maybe something he found an even better place from a friend, he gives up on his 1 month deposit. So then I will assume, oh yeah, sure, I'll get to take that 1 month's check because I held the unit for you for a month.
Right, yeah.
Yeah, let's say I held the unit for you for a month, you said you're gonna move it a month later, so I turn out other people. But no, 80% of the check goes to the real estate agent, and that's manifestly unfair.
Yo, that is so bad, you know, like I would fire the real estate agent if I'm the landlord.
Yeah, but, I mean, it really depends. Like, there's a lot of clauses that are really not very fair. Let's say renewal of the tenants. So so the common norm is the landlord pays 1 month's rental to the agent who has to find the tenant. Then when the tenant wants to renew, the real estate agent says, hey, your tenant is renewing, I'm going to need another 1 month from you. The landlord's like, why? You didn't do any work, but it's in the contract. I find it unfair as well because sure, for the first time, the agent did work to find the tenant for you, but to renew, there's nothing to do. And yet you want to ask for another 1 month's rental again. It feels quite unfair.
Yeah, at most it'd just be like, just pay me $50 for helping you draft the contract or something.
Most of the time, right, it's just copy paste the whole thing, just change the date and off you go, right? There's really no work there.
Oh my gosh.
So yeah.
My experience as well is that, and I guess this could be a question as well, is that some of the tenants that I interact with, they will say, you know, the landlord will give me back the deposit anyway, so, and this is a bit on Rently side, so I don't need to use Rently. So I think they have this very strong assurance that, you know, the deposit is going to come back to me 100%. So I guess, is there any other clauses or any other terms in the tenancy agreement you feel that tenants tend to overlook? You know, they just like, you know, that's how it is.
It's also about condition. Because most people, when they move in, they don't remember to take a video of how everything is. And when they move out, they're like, hey, the landlord says, hey, all these things are damaged, I'm going to take it out from your deposit. Yeah. How do you dispute this? Video proof is the simplest, but most people don't remember it. So if you move into a unit that has most places have pre-existing defects one way or another. There's a crack here.
It's very normal, right?
Yes, it's very normal. After 1 or 2 years, something starts to fall apart, or you knock something by accident. The question is, who did it and who should be liable? Yeah. So most tenants forget or don't think that they have to because they do it on good faith. The landlord knows that, oh, we came in with a crack there already. But after that, when you want to move out, the landlord says, the crack wasn't there when you first moved in, so I'm going to deduct the deposit from you.
Yeah. Then it becomes like a he say, she say situation.
Correct, but the problem is that the landlord's holding the money.
So they will definitely win, right? That's it, not too bad.
So the landlord always says, I'm going to hold this. I'm going to say it's your fault, you have to prove otherwise. Yeah. And that is the tough part. How do you prove otherwise when you don't have any proof because you didn't take it when you moved in?
Yeah, that's like if you're guilty unless proven innocent.
The issue is, if you want money from someone, you have to prove that you are right.
Yeah.
That's how it always works.
That's true, yeah. I always find that the tough part is like, you know, like they can just say anything, or like anyone can just say anything. So like, okay, you can take a video, right? But then they can just say like, the doorknob is squeaky. Then when I move in, I'm not going to know whether, I'm not going to like purposely turn the doorknob.
Thankfully, most people aren't that picky.
Yeah.
It's only for really major items like, oh, like there's a huge crack on the wall over there.
Yeah.
Or like, this thing is broken, like this appliance is broken, like you open it, you can see everything is slanted, everything else.
Yeah.
These are always commonly up for this.
Okay. I think something else we want to kind of find out on is that, how do you, besides, you know, like let's just say if there's a tenant that completely doesn't use Reddit, like I don't really use Reddit, right? How do you advise these people to, you know, seek legal advice? You know, let's just say if they are completely just, you know, not on this kind of like more social platforms.
So the most common place to seek legal advice is your free legal clinics. So most community centers in Singapore, every say 2 weeks or a month, they have one night where lawyers will come down, senior lawyers, some of them, will come down and dispense free legal advice to whoever needs it. Okay. Some of them you have to pre-book an advice, some you can just do walk-ins. And there's nothing stopping you from going to like say 3 or 4 to get a variety of advice. That is the first basic step. People have this assumption that legal advice is very expensive. Yeah. That's true, but that's why you have free legal clinics. It's a community movement. So it's all over Singapore. There are, I think most CCs would have them. And I've personally, through my 4 years of uni, I've spent at least like 100 hours doing those. Just help out, give people advice, and see them through the league with the senior lawyers. You get good advice there, and you can go for more than one of them, and you can get a variety of different advice. Heard a lot of different cases, sometimes real estate as well also. In fact, there's a really funny story that I can share.
Yeah.
So there's this guy, he came looking for legal advice because his landlord went totally MIA.
Okay.
So he has a landlord from China. He used to always just send in the rent through bank transfer. The bank account got closed. He cannot make the transfer anymore. He cannot contact his landlord. It has been half a year. He's just been living there. The bills are thankfully in his name.
Okay.
But the landlord is completely MIA. Cannot reach the landlord, cannot find the landlord. What does he do? The suspicion is that the landlord has passed away or ran away somewhere, cannot find him anymore. So the advice from the senior lawyer given is that, well, if you can't send in the funds, the bank account got closed, just earmark the funds on one side, the separate account, and wait for the day that he returns. And to this day, I really still wonder what happened, man. Like, that guy is living in a space and he can't pay his landlord, but everything's going great.
Oh my god, he probably got caught in some like fraudulent activity that he just disappeared.
We will never know.
Oh my gosh.
But that was an interesting little story that happened.
Oh wow, I think I had a friend that had a similar case as well. The landlord was also in some some like illegal activities there. I think his assets got frozen, so then the tenants were just staying in the place like rent free.
Yeah, it does happen.
Yeah, it was so funny. Oh my gosh. Yeah. I mean, with all that said, also, I think there's a lot of platforms like yourself, like you said, the legal clinics. They are trying to fight the good fight to help out people that maybe aren't so well versed in these kind of spaces. I think especially if you're a tenant and you're renting for the first time, there's so much things that you wouldn't know. I wouldn't know I needed to take pictures. Like my closest experience is staying in an Airbnb, and you don't have to do it there. So I guess, how do you feel that maybe these kind of platforms, it could be like the clinics, it could be like tech platforms, it could be like anything, or can maybe collaborate with maybe government bodies to maybe see how we can alleviate or elevate the standing of the rental market?
I would say the easiest thing to do is to work with the expat groups. So quite common on Facebook or other places, you have like Singapore expat groups.
Yeah.
Then when you come to Singapore, what are things you should do and everything else. So they tell you like, oh, people find out more about where to live, where to eat, where to buy stuff. So it's not too much of a hassle to add on underneath, like things to be wary of. Number one, not all landlords are good, and you should do this, and that. So yeah, but most people focus on like moving in, like enjoying life, and like where to travel to. So I mean, the first year a lot of expats come in, they're like, I want to go to Bali, I want to go to Bintan, I want to go to Phuket to explore the host of Southeast Asia as well also, but they don't really care too much about protecting yourself from the landlords and other things. People focus on the good, not the what if and the in case.
Right. I mean, for me, I'm always on the what ifs, like if I travel somewhere, I always get scared that I'm going to get pickpocketed. I always hear the stories like, you're from Singapore, yeah, you're the first to get your shit stolen. Then I'm like, then every time I go to a more dangerous country, I'm like, okay, now I've got to put my stuff in I don't know where and all that kind of stuff. So yeah, I guess that would be a very good place to kind of go for that. Does the local community have something similar that they can go to? Since this is mainly for expat groups.
Local community, not so much, because everything is through word of mouth. There is no like 101 guide to how to rent. People rely on their agents, but let's face it, the real estate agents is not a very well regulated space.
Yep.
All you have to do is pass a simple exam, and your behavior and code of conduct afterwards. There are many complaints about bad real estate agents. So real estate agents aren't really incentivized to make sure that the tenants are protected. What they're incentivized to do is just to close the deal quickly. And so they're incentivized to brush things over, hide everything, and just faster get them to sign, get the commission, and off they go.
That's true, yeah. So actually, like, if Renly were to kind of like maybe step in and help out in this space, maybe to kind of like create more awareness, what should we focus on first?
The hype always is stories of how people get screwed over. Everyone loves to listen to those stories, how someone got screwed over, what went wrong and everything else. I would say that is the first place to go. People don't learn from reading about like the long list of things that you should do.
Like a checklist, right?
Yep.
It's boring.
people don't learn from. People learn about all the stories of how you got screwed over. People love to gossip. Oh, my friend got screwed over by this person, that person, this happened, that person. Oh, you know, he lost $5,000, everything else. Tell all the aunties that, and the story will spread.
And
Yeah.
it sounds like my mom and me. Yeah, on a Tuesday afternoon. Actually, Xuan Ming, we had a pretty funny story how we actually we met actually. Yeah. So, how maybe you can share us a little bit more like how actually you first encountered Rently and how that has kind of changed and everything.
Well, basically, it was a post on Reddit. Someone asked, "What is Rently? Should I use them?" So I had a quick look. Then I wrote, I think, like 6 or 7 different points why you should not use Rently.
Okay.
So it was something along the lines of like Rently is so new, it's been less than a year, and like they're unknown, and if you pay them this much money over the course of the year, then might as well just pay the deposit. And I laid out quite a few points. Then Tariq, he saw it and he responded, and then we had a bit of like discourse back and forth in the comments, and he liked my thought process. So it invited me to come down here and have a chit chat about what they're doing, what Rently is doing, and how can they make things better.
Right. That's really cool, honestly. That's how we actually first got to have an interaction with you. So I guess it's always good, right? Because critical feedback actually does help to make things a lot better, and also helps us to make sure that we're not slacking off. Just kind of like keep us on our toes. So what was actually your first initial impression? I know that you mentioned that bullet points, but was it like a bit more like these people, they're trying to get you in a different way, or like?
It wasn't really trying to get you, but I was like, most of the issues you can handle on your own if you are savvy. But I recognize not everyone is savvy, nor does everyone have the time and energy to devote into taking care of themselves in that way. It's like how some people like think, oh, like it's a waste of money to get a helper to come and clean everything for like $300 per month. You can do chores on your own. But life is all about a balance of money versus time and energy. So I can totally understand that for some people, outsourcing it is worthwhile.
Yeah.
But I was like, it's still too new, and like there's no reviews. So really, is this even worthwhile?
That's true, right? I mean, it's a brand new thing. You totally don't know. And I think I saw the comment. It does make sense. It hasn't been around long enough to actually see that the effectiveness of the business or the use case, right?
How long ago was this?
This was last year, I think March. So Rently was out and giving services for less than 1 year. So I basically, one of the points that I raised was that they have no track record as of yet, because how do you know if they help you to get back your deposit? They've been around less for a year, or their current customers have not reached the stage.
That's true. So I think context-wise, we started the service in September 2023. So March is probably about 6 months. Yeah. So unless you have a 6 months lease, probably I think your perspective was pretty accurate, I would say. So actually, I mean, after engaging with Rently, after talking to Tariq, which is one of the founders of Rently, how has things kind of like changed? For the better or the worse? We're totally cool with it.
Definitely for the better. So Tariq managed to explain to me clearly the value proposition, which is basically Rently is meant to help balance out all the bad actors. We always hope that the people we work with are in good faith, but that's not always true. We have to be prepared for working against bad actors, which does happen sometimes.
As a lawyer, you should know that, right?
Definitely, as well as sometimes just unfortunate circumstances. Then everyone needs to find a balanced way that is fair and equitable to resolve the whole issue. So that's where I felt Rently is supposed to come in and help to balance everyone out. Because like I said, the real estate system is a 3-party system: tenant, landlord, and real estate agent. And when one party wants to act in bad faith, the other 2 parties suffer. So Rently comes in to help to balance everything out and try and be a fair platform to mediate or to keep everyone in check in the first place. Yeah. So it's more like an overarching system to make sure that everyone is playing by the rules and does things right.
Yeah, I think that really helps to kind of like the embedded involvement of this ecosystem really needs, I would say, some neutral party. Because I think the nature of the rental market is that agents, as much as we really want to help, we do have a vested interest in one party, and we aren't allowed to collect commission for both sides. So that means we cannot be a neutral party. So having a firm or like a platform basically that can kind of act as this neutral, introduce neutrality, I think it's at least what I feel also very, very, very useful and very important. And that really kind of like helps to kind of change things up as a whole. Yeah. Going into that, I mean, Rently is it's constantly evolving, and we're doing a lot of like weird stuff all the time, like this video. Yeah. But what aspect of Rently do you feel, I guess, attracts you the most, or do you feel is the most promising out there? And what do you feel still can be improved? You know, what do you think that, you know, Rently does this pretty badly, you know, they can do so much better. They suck at that.
Personally, I haven't used Rently.
Okay.
I don't rent. So I'm not too sure how the whole flow process is. But I do think that you guys have a strong value proposition in protecting deposits, because that has been a constant issue online, as well as helping to ease any problems, any disputes between the landlord and the tenant. And maybe just, you know, clear the real estate agents out of the way in the first place. There's really no need for them sometimes. So moving forward, I would say Singapore as a whole rental space is not too problematic. There isn't a very high requirement, personally, I feel, in terms of the deposits. We ask for 1 month or 10%, which is quite reasonable. Other places, say in Dubai, they can ask as high as 2 months. Or they want to pay everything in one check, which is quite difficult for some people, because one check is a very high upfront cost.
It's crazy. Yeah.
So different countries are different places. I think Rently...
That's like 100k potentially, like in one check, right?
Yes, so not everyone has the kind of cash flow straight away. It's difficult. And it inhibits some people from being able to do what they want.
You've got to be a Dubai prince to get that.
So, for example, say in Dubai, when you want to rent somewhere, let's say you have to, even if you say negotiate a 2 check, so 2 checks, you have to pay half a year's rent first. And you have to pay your agent 1 month's rent as part of the agent fees. Then you need to pay down your 1 more month's rent as a deposit, so we're already at 8 months. Then after that, you have your utility bills, you have to put a deposit as well also. After that, you have your furnishing as well also, you know, do a bit of furnishing, sprucing up, then you are at like easily 8.5 to 9 months rent straight away, and that's just half a year's check at the very start. So if you have to go 1 whole year in the get-go, right, then you're doing actually for like 14 to 15 months cash outlay immediately, which is difficult for a lot of people, because who has that much cash lying around?
Yeah.
If you're financially savvy, you'll be like, oh, I'm putting in some investments or something else, and half a year's rent upfront is very cash heavy. So I do think Rently has strong potential for other rental markets as well, also in the surrounding region or in the Middle East, to help make renting a lot easier for everyone. In Singapore, it's not too bad. Our system is quite easygoing, I would say already.
Yeah. I mean, I think with that amount, you can probably put a down payment to a place or so. You know, just maybe just a little bit, yeah. I mean that's the whole fight that we're kind of getting into, or like how we're trying to help as well. So I mean, just for context, Rently's also, we actually just entered Dubai market a few months back to kind of tackle this exact same thing. So the tenants there are also facing, I think, a crazy problem there as well. So like what you mentioned. So we're trying to see how we can help tenants there, new space as well. Hopefully that turns out to be quite cool as well. Yeah. All right, cool. So I am completely done. Is there anything else you want to say?
That's all from me. I hope that you guys continue to grow and bring balance to the rental markets. So the 3-party system is usually always skewed in one direction towards either one of the 3, or maybe even 2 of the 3, and one person loses out. I hope that Rently can help to bring a balance for everyone, bring a fair marketplace where everyone knows properly what they're getting into, and you guys have the carrot and the stick. Yep. So the carrot is come with us and everything will be smooth, and the stick is go out of hand and we'll whack you with the fees or something else.
That is true. I guess one last thing, maybe like if you had like 30 seconds to give advice to tenants or landlords or whatever agents out there, what would you say to them?
If you have any issues, seek help. Just ask around everywhere, and sooner or later you find something. Don't give up. There are things that can be done, but you have to put in a bit of effort into getting things right.
All right, cool. Actually, we do have a bit of a game section, you know, just to, you know, for me to test your legal skills, you know, see whether you're up to code, whether you did your. Do you guys do a test every year or something?
No, we don't. Once you pass the bar exams, that's all.
Okay, so it's just agents then. You know, they don't trust us for keeping up to date.
Real estate rules and laws do change year after year.
Yeah.
There's a lot of things that are always ongoing. The general law in Singapore is a lot more stagnant, I would say.
I see. I guess that's good, you know, just learn once and you know you're kind of good. So anyways, just to keep in to the same theme of what we've been talking about, this is going to be like a trivia game where we called it myth or law. Okay, that's so bad. But okay, so I'll be asking you a statement, and then I guess you'll be telling me whether this is actually something that is real or is it completely bullshit? Yeah, so usually anything that comes out of my mouth is bullshit, but for this game, I'm moderated, so there's a chance that it's probably true. Okay, so first question. We have a landlord. Okay, he is trying to deduct from the security deposit for ordinary wear and tear, such as faded paint or minor scuffs. Is this myth or law?
He's not allowed to deduct for normal wear and tear.
Okay.
So him deducting it is a myth.
Is it a myth? That is correct. Okay. Yeah. So actually, why isn't it not allowed?
Because it's just part and parcel of living. So it's the landlord's responsibility to try and do a bit of basic upkeep as well. So like small wear and tear, it happens all the time. It's part and parcel of someone living there. So at the end of the day, as long as it's not major damage, right? Like after say 1 year, small wear and tear is normal, it's fine.
Okay, the next one is a landlord must provide receipts or evidence for any deduction made from the security deposit.
Yes, that is true.
That's law. All right, that is correct. Completely correct. And we got this from Singapore Legal Advice. That's our reference. Good job, Alex. Yeah, so at least the explanation it says here is that landlords should substantiate any deductions with appropriate documentation, such as receipts or invoices for repairs.
Definitely. If not, you have landlords saying, oh, this sofa is broken, it cost me $6,000 to replace it. Actually only cost like $300.
You never know, right? Yeah.
That's why.
I saw, like back to that question, I saw one landlord that said that the curtain wasn't hanged properly. He charged $80. Then I'm like, what the hell? I could just have, that's $80? Yeah.
For small sums, there's a little bit of disputes for like the effort to try and replace or fix and stuff, everything. So, I mean, if your landlord is that kind of a nitpicker and is so fussy about small things, it's a bit hard to dispute as well. I would say just like 5 hours of your life arguing with your landlord over $80 is not worth it.
No, I agree.
But it depends for everyone.
Yeah. Just like a handyman code, I think that's the best you can do. Yeah. Maybe he got Bill Gates to hang it, that's why it's like his time is like $80 for like doing that action. That's his reference point. Okay, anyway, enough of me talking shit. Next one is, tenants can legally withhold the last month's rent, expecting the security deposit to cover it.
No, that is a myth.
Oh, I mean, like technically they can do that, but why can't they do it?
Okay, so let's think from the landlord's POV. Your tenant is in their last month already, and they're just going to tell you, oh, I'm not going to pay rent for the last month because my deposit will cover it. But what if they already owe you money throughout the whole duration for the deposit? So say you already know there's damage, or they've already been late on a payment, so you already deducted some interest, or they could have broken something in the last month.
That's true, yeah.
That does happen.
And you wouldn't, as a landlord, you wouldn't see the place until that.
Yes, or you could have come earlier and you already noted there's a bit of damage here and there, but I'm just going to wait until the last month to tell when they leave. So all landlords and tenants both, they should continue on with the pre-agreed contract, which is pay every month still. And only at the last month do they, at the end of the lease, then the contract is returned. The tenant's deposit is returned then.
Oh, okay, yeah, that makes a lot of sense. Yeah, I guess, tenants don't do that. Or I guess don't request for that. Yeah. All right, cool. Yeah, so I guess that's it. We're done with the trivia. I think you did pretty well. I think I would have gotten maybe about 2.3.
Nah, I'm sure you could have gotten more.
Yeah, I have to, right? If not, I'm the worst real estate agent on the planet. But yeah, it was really great to meet you again.